Hello and happy Wednesday. On today's episode of the Busy Bride podcast, we are talking to Rebecca from RAM Floral. Rebecca is a florist, but honestly, so much more. She talks about the creativity involved with florals, all the behind the scenes work that goes into her job, and the holistic approach she takes when it comes to floral design. And spoiler alert, hiring a florist is about so much more than just the flowers. Now let's hear from Rebecca. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. Hello, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
I am super excited to talk to you ever since we worked together at a wedding this past fall. I was blown away by your work with the florals, so I was like, I need to have Becky on the show.
Thank you. I'll send you the check later for saying that. No.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so quick to start out, can you tell me the name of your business, what you do, the areas that you serve, and maybe a little fun fact about your business?
Sure. RAM Floral, RAM, used to be my initials. Then I got divorced. So I look at that almost as a badge of honor. So we kept it. It had a pretty good brand recognition already. So I just rolled with it. We're actually on the precipice of a rebrand. So you'll see that happen in the next couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh.
We've been working with dear fellow studios who have been impeccable in helping me just define the brand. So I'm really excited. Right now, the studio, I have a studio. No shade to any home florists. That's where I started, but I do currently have a studio in Norristown, Pennsylvania, really close to the KOP Mall. And generally we serve a majority of our clients are within 2 hours. So we go down the shore, but primarily our clients reside in Philadelphia, Bucks, Montgomery County, and we love it, but we love traveling too. I've definitely done weddings as far north as like Bar Harbor, which was amazing. So, we're always down for a good travel as well. And fun facts. This is my second career. So actually I am 42 years old, proudly. And I spent 17 years working for another corporate organization in a completely non-floral capacity. This is a second life for me that I never saw coming. I was not an artist growing up. I was just a creative child who liked crafts. So so here we are, 8 years later. We're here.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh. Wait, so can you tell me about how you got into being a florist and what
Yeah.
drew you to leave your first career to pursue this, what seems like to be a passion for you?
Definitely. It was, it kind of fell into my lap, but it also came from a time in my life where I was going through a lot of transitions. I had just lost my mom to cancer and my grandmother to age and dementia, and I was their caretaker. So in a lot of circumstances, I got a lot of free time, and I didn't quite know what to do with myself, and I had a lot of grief, and creativity was always something I had in my back pocket. I did a lot of arts and crafts, played with a lot of glue and sparkles and string and yarn and paper and tape. And so as I was going through the process of grieving, I started to explore my creativity. And at the same time, friends were getting married, and my mother-in-law, now ex-mother-in-law, used to make her own table arrangements, and she would go to Trader Joe's, or she would go to Produce Junction, which is a store in Pennsylvania that sells like wholesale fruits, vegetables, and florals. And I was just like, there was a friend getting married in Manayunk at a place, I think it's Platform something now, but it used to be Beat Street Station, Dana. And she needed help with their wedding. And it was like 2 days before, and she was like, flowers. And I was like, I'll do some flowers. I can figure it out. My mother-in-law does this all the time. So I did it and I loved it. And I remember I was a guest at the wedding sitting at the tables and everybody remarking like how beautiful the flowers were. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So, but I just really loved the medium. So slowly, that was like probably 15 years ago. So slowly I started do more and more weddings and, again, just like helping friends. It was very, very casual. I had no insurance, no business. It was like, just let me help you. And then I did one, I think it was like the latter part of 2015 or early 2016 where I did everything and I was just bananas about it and I loved doing it. And then I worked a little bit in New York with a friend and I got to see the flower market. So it was like this slow build, but in 2016, I opened the business and I literally had no idea. I was in my garage. I just started figuring it out as I went along. I was like, I was literally going to clients saying, I'm not going to charge you labor because I have no idea what I'm doing. But if you trust me, here's what I'd like to do for you. So not that I advocate giving it away, especially now, not in this post-pandemic world. But it was just like the way that I saw a way to get into the market. So I did that for a little bit and slowly the clientele built. And I recognized that working with amazing photographers was going to be really beneficial to my galleries and to my content. So I started finding clients that had hired good photographers, but maybe couldn't afford like really stellar florals. And I would, do a little more or make it a little cheaper just to kind of work with these photographers to get some real weddings. There was a lot of styled shoots at the time. So that kind of led to this slow build. And it got to the point in 2018 where I was working a full-time corporate job and also doing weddings on the weekends, production at night in my garage. And I did, I think, about 25 weddings at the same time as having a full-time job.
Wow.
So yeah, that got to be too much. And
That's a lot.
in 2018, I was like, it's time. Both me and my employer agreed that it was time to step away from the role. So I went full time with the business, and I didn't necessarily have the book of clients yet, but I had the faith in my passion for it. And I went for it. And I did a lot of odd jobs. I worked for a lot of other floral companies. Shout out to Fresh Design. Sue Davis is just the most incredible human. She gave me so much education. She let me work for free. She couldn't get rid of me. I was like, I'm an intern now and I'm just going to come work for free. So I get to like get hands-on experience. Again, not advocating that, but that's what I chose to do. And she taught me so much. And then I worked with other designers and just tried to slowly build my skill set. And that translated to clients. And then I started finding other people, other vendors in the community that were in the same position as me, just starting out in their businesses, but with like a lot of talent and a lot of passion. And that's how I connected with them. Megan from House of Catherine and the whole team from Fulton Events and Haley Richter Photography, and people that we become really pivotal in my growth as a vendor overall. So we all kind of just started building our businesses together, and things were going well until 2020, and we hit the pandemic. And for the last 4 years, we've been in survival mode, but we're here and figuring it out. This year feels like a rebirth of sorts. It feels like the time that we'll be able to kind of really go back to what it used to look like before the pandemic in terms of business. There was so much fluctuation coming off of COVID. So this feels like a good year, and I'm pretty excited about what's happening. So I think that brings us up to current. I got married in there. I moved from Jersey to Pennsylvania. I was born and raised in Delco, so you probably hear that in my accent. Cokes and hoagies. Yeah, my husband is a wedding photographer, so I have a lot of love for photography and florals. I actually can wield a camera if necessary, but I choose not to. I actually photographed as a second photographer a few weddings, a couple weddings, and it's terrible. It's a really hard job, and I don't know how. My husband is the most patient person in the entire world, and any photographer that does it for a living with grace is just a hero in my book, because it is an incredibly difficult job. So I feel really lucky to do what I do in the wedding industry, and I have a ton of respect for all of the other vendors, but particularly photographers, just because I get to live with one as well.
That's incredible. What a great story. Wow.
Hopefully that was
You overcame like so much to be able to do this full time, and I'm so happy that you're now fully living out your passion and doing something that you love.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is not easy. I think that's one thing that people, marriers, clients, starting designers, anybody venturing to run a business. And I did have a corporate job with dealt with sales and service and business, and I did recruiting and I did training and development and I did human resources, and I had a lot of business acumen walking into starting my own business, and I still had no idea what I was doing. So it's been a huge learning experience. I have an existential crisis at least once a week about if I'm doing the right thing. But it is something that I love dearly and I am passionate about it. So I just keep trying to put myself in a good headspace and make sure that we're being true to the brand and having a good time and honoring our clients, and we work through it. Like it's good, but it's not easy either. It's a lot of
Yes,
work.
can
It's a
confirm.
lot of work. And I am a team of
Yes,
one.
I can't imagine how much work goes into the planning side of florals, because there's work that goes into the planning side of
How much
photography,
time you
but
got? No.
yeah, right? Like, I believe it. But I'm so glad that you feel like you're coming back to like what normal business should be after COVID. I started my business during COVID, so I didn't have like the drop off that everybody else experienced. I was just scrapping things together for a couple years. And this does feel like a we're kind of back to normal year on my end, but again, I don't know what kind of stuff you guys went through. But I want you to talk more about what you do as a florist, because people see the florals on wedding days. They're freaking gorgeous, but there's so many parts to it, and I can't imagine like the planning, the sourcing, the keeping the flowers alive and looking pretty, putting them all together because you can't just have them all together beforehand. Can you talk more about like what exactly you do as a florist?
Yeah, and I think I want to preface this to say that like everybody runs their businesses differently. There used to be much more consistency when people were purchasing wedding flowers because you would walk into a flower shop. You didn't really have independent event florist designers. That's probably something that's happened in the last 20 or so years. So, trying to compare florists and compare businesses is like almost impossible because everybody is kind of they're creative, so they've built their own business. So preface is to say this is just what and how I do what I do, and it has changed immensely over the years in a reaction to the market, to the clients, to my goals as a business owner. And it's I am a florist. As a creative, that's my medium, and that's the first thing that I tell people. Painters paint, architects build, I flower, but I'm still a creative. So essentially people are hiring me for a custom creative service. So you want to have a portrait painted, you want to have an architect build you a blueprint. That's why somebody would come to me, whether it's a client, a prospective client, or a planner, or somebody that's just looking to host a small event. That's the first way that I present things to people, is just say, I'm not just purchasing flowers for you to there's a creative process here. So that's how I kind of lead into things, and everything comes from the heart. One of the choices I made as a business is to only, to the best of my ability, do and take on things that I felt really good about. Depending on financial obligations, that changes. Everybody has to make money. Depending on the size of your business, you have to take more jobs or larger jobs. So scaling a business is incredibly difficult, kind of doing a few weddings a year, being able to manage that was really easy for me out of my garage. But, the game changes once you start booking 15, 20, 25, 30, $40,000 wedding budgets or more. You're so fun. Let's go. But it can, just the logistics of everything changes. So you really become a project manager in that aspect. So I'm a professional creative. I'm an entrepreneur. and I run a business. So that's the first part of being a florist. And I haven't even touched flowers. So everything that comes with those things, I do. And then the flowers come in. So it's really connecting with the clients and saying, like, what are your needs? Figuring out, the logistics, the day, the flowers, the season, the goals, and working with them to come up with the best possible plan while still being true to myself as a creative, lending them my toolkit of, I think I'm getting close to 500 weddings of experience. I said there's like this invisible toolkit. I've been through it all. I've been through COVID, but I've also been through 100-year floods and snow squalls and blizzards and downpours and flash floods and like all of it. So I'm never surprised when I'm surprised by something, but at the same time, it's fewer and farther between these days. So I've kind of been through a lot. So, people are hiring me not only for my creative perspective, but that toolkit of experience so I can help them create this beautiful vision. So defining that vision is part of that. And then we get into the design and we go through design calls and I pull mood boards and I'll do sketches for them, depending on imagery and what I'm able to find to convey ideas. So, it's not good sketching, but it gets the point across most of the time. And then we go through, and then there's the whole flower sourcing. As you said, I could spend an hour just talking about, or a month just talking about that. It's a commodities market. It's supply and demand. The cost is skyrocketing, and people see a flower and they think, oh, it's $1 for a rose. But like, yes, if you walk into a store, it's $1 for a rose. But like, I have all of the other things that overhead the business, and I have to charge more for that because not only do I have to purchase that rose for you, I've done the design work, I've done the proposals, I've done the phone calls, I'm paying the internet bills, I have the computer, like all of that overhead goes into that. And then we have to buy the rose, we have to process the rose, we have to clean, which is like cleaning the rose, cutting the rose. Everything comes in boxes for the most part. So we have to make everything look pretty, and different flowers, they all have personalities. So, what one likes, another one doesn't like. Certain flowers can't go in the same buckets with other flowers. Certain things need more time to bloom than others. I have to bring in flowers on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, depending on how sensitive they are. I'm chasing flowers around. If you have clients that want specific things, you're always doing your best to try to find them. Peonies, lily of the valley, which are super tricky, especially out of season. And I know it's like a broken record. Everybody says it, but it's true. So it takes, I probably work on average a healthy 10 hours a day, just managing all the aspects of the business, but then getting into the flowers themselves. And that's just bringing them in. And then we get into the hard goods, the candles, the candle holders, the cleaning of the candles. For every candle you see on a table, we have packed it, we have cleaned it, we have purchased a candle for it, and over, we've loaded it into a truck, we've taken it back out of a truck, we've put it on the table, we put it back in a box, taken it back to the studio. So everything you see on a table has been moved 5 times by the time it gets to a wedding. It's touched 4 hands. It's not, especially when you're scaling. So it's a lot. There's a lot of pieces. I think a lot of people don't realize how much goes into the actual business of being a florist and creating weddings at that scale. And there's a big push, and I totally respect it, for people to DIY. And there's always been a DIY mentality to weddings. And I think flowers is one of those things that there's a values line. We have certain discerning, quality appreciating, high-end clients that recognize the value in the overall look of florals in an event and are able and willing to make a large investment into that. But then we also have clients who love flowers but don't necessarily have the ability or the budget to purchase large-scale design. And I totally appreciate that, but then they try to translate what a florist would do into a DIY situation and making arches and stuff. And is it something that you can do? Absolutely. There's a learning curve to it. You are turning yourself into a professional. It's like teaching yourself to take your appendix out instead of going to the doctor. If you're smart enough, if you're willing to go through the training, could you maybe do it? Sure. Is it a good idea? maybe. Depends on how good you are, but it's a lot of stress, and it's something that, like, do you really want to teach yourself that? So I always say, think about how much you care about flowers, what kind of role they play in the event for you, and then make decisions based on that. But DIY is really tough if you want it to look a certain way. If you're happy for the experience and you don't hold a significant amount of value for the look of flowers in the event, and you're happy to just have beautiful flowers everywhere in vases, maybe put together by your friends and family, that's amazing too. But with florists, you get experience, professionalism, and consistency as well. So I think that.
Definitely. And I've seen you set up, I've seen other florists set up the day of the weddings, and truly just the setup. I mean, you guys are there for hours at the beginning. You're sweating. Like
Sweating,
it's a lot of work
so much sweating.
getting everything together. Yes, like it truly does require a lot to put together the look of the day. Not even going into like all the different flower types and what they need leading up to the day and finding them and all that stuff. So it is
Hours.
a lot of
It's a
work.
it's a
Oh my
it's a job.
gosh.
It's a whole job. There's a whole
Yeah.
professional career around it because
Yes.
it's a lot of work. There's a lot of categories that you can check with it, but it's a fun way to live life as a professional creative. And if you do it well and you enjoy it, it can be incredibly fulfilling. I really, really, really love doing what I do. So and I love clients. And like, I get to be part of the most fun day. Like, people don't get married in ugly places. At least my clients
Yeah,
generally don't.
it's true.
And I just get to like see beautiful things and be part of these incredible days. And I still have relationships with many of my clients, and we text, and I get to go on to see them live their lives. And if they choose to have families, and all of this life that happens after the wedding. And I've done showers, and years later, I have clients that are celebrating 6-7 year anniversaries, and it's incredible. It's incredible to be part of that, and I have so much love for the people that pay me to do what I love to do. So yeah, I pour a lot of heart into it. Also, I really only take like one wedding a weekend now. If I can avoid taking multiple events, I want to focus entirely on that one event as much as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's awesome that you get to keep in touch with your clients too. That's one of the best parts of
Yeah,
it.
they're cute. I love
Yes.
them. I love them. Good people, really good
Oh,
people.
yeah.
I've been really. I haven't had a lot of Zilla experiences. Thankfully.
That's amazing.
So I think more than anything, it's family dynamics that usually weigh into the complexity of a day. But I haven't really had any kind of really difficult, mean, terrible, disrespectful clients.
Thank goodness. And I'm the same way too. Yes.
Yay!
It's
Yeah,
people are
everybody's been amazing.
people are pretty great.
Yeah, yeah, and they're happy. They're getting married.
Yeah,
It's
right?
way better than human resources.
Yes. Way better than HR.
Way better than human resources.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I love that. Um, okay, so we know that there's so much that goes into the florals. Can you go over like the different kinds of packages that a florist offers, if that? Like, are there different things that you do, or is it just like, hey, if you hire me, this is what you get?
Great question. Like I said, I preface this to say everybody does it differently. The way that I work, how do I describe this? So everything I do is custom. So I don't have like a canned package where you're like, oh, I want to hire you for my wedding. What can I get for my money? I work off of an average. So basically, I've just taken like what it costs me to do the weddings that I do and averaged it per head. So if you're having 100-person wedding, I average about $120 a head on the high end. So a 100-person wedding would cost you with me approximately $12,000. That's the way that I've kind of circumvented offering packages, and also still making room for clients that are having smaller events. So you can still come to me with a 10-person event, and as long as you understand that you're going to be paying about $1,200 for that event plus tax, then I would be happy to take on the project as long as it works for us, because that's what it costs me to do what I do. And to do what I do is like the sourcing of the flowers. I like good material. I like unique material. I like beautiful material. I'm buying expensive flowers, and that's what clients hire me for, is the look that I'm producing. So it's not something that I can make cheaper and still look like me either. It's, you kind of see that sketch where it says like client says do it cheaper, and it's a beautiful painting of a horse, and then it just turns into like a line drawing. Like at some point the equality does affect the outcome of the look. So, I kind of drew a line in the sand and say, these are the products I love to use. Obviously, if there's things that are sentimental, important, I'll work through all of that. I'm not saying like, I love a carnation, but I like a funky carnation that's like dyed and might cost $1.50 a stem, which is not cheap, so versus like the 20-cent carnation that everybody thinks of when they think of a carnation. So there's a level of product that I like to use that goes into the thought process of the design. And like I said, I kind of like to equate it to painters painting. I'm just choosing different paints to get the best look that I can. And then, it's just working through, like I said, what the space looks like, what their goals are for the day, and just working through where we put that budget. So I always say like the flowers are in one big pool and we're just trying to allocate them. And it's not like I'm trying to sell 20 centerpieces. Personally, I'd rather put all candles on a table and do an incredible installation on a fireplace that people can take pictures in front of, and or like an amazing ceiling piece or something growing up around a window. No, I love a centerpiece. I love a good centerpiece. Centerpieces could be great and dramatic as well, but like I love those moments where we get to just really enhance a space, play with architecture, make something that's really going to stop people in their tracks, and then play with little moments too. I do love the little moments. I love curating. I buy a lot of little specialty items, a lot of little like flower frogs and pottery and stuff that I can add into my clients' events. I actually give all of my clients my inventory to use for free, so I don't charge separate rental fees, which is a little bit unique. I just look at it as part of the design that allows me to use whatever I want to use. I don't have to charge them, per candle, per hurricane that goes over the taper holder. Like I don't have to track all that stuff in my inventory. It's an added value for them. And then that allows me to do that little special styling, bring in those like artisanal pieces, those antique pieces, those colorful pieces that I've curated. And that all comes from the ability to just work creatively with my clients in collaboration to meet their event goals versus here's 20 centerpieces and here's what that's going to cost you, and 10 bridesmaids bouquets and that's what that's going to cost you, and yada, yada, yada. So, I try to look at it as big picture. I also don't show them any line item pricing. I just put it as one big pool. So the reason I do that is because I often felt that clients were putting themselves in the position of trying to choose where to put the value of their flowers rather than trusting me. And they would be like, oh, can we take 4 flowers out of this centerpiece and put them in this fireplace? And, they're looking at it as dollars and cents. They're not seeing it as an overall design or what that's going to look like or how it's affecting the design. So basically, I took that away from them and I say, hey, I want you to trust that I'm using your budget in the best possible way. Your budget's my budget. Here's why I average my dollars. Here's where our money is going towards. I try to think, with the client's best interest in mind. So that allows me to produce the weddings that look like me because they're also trusting me to do what I'm doing with their budget versus like checking line items. I think I've only line itemed one invoice in the last like 4 years. So, and it works great. It works really good for me. Obviously we have a pretty robust design and work on pictures. And like I said, I do sketches and stuff like that, but they don't need to see the dollars and cents. That shouldn't be the focus when you're hiring a crew. That's like asking to see like what the price of each paint and paintbrush is and the canvas and the easel before you commit to purchasing the whole painting. And it's like, no, you're there for the painting. So that's the way that I look at that. And clients that understand that are my clients. Clients that are willing to work with me in that capacity are my clients. People that are more in need of more rigidity and more structure and want to have more control over that aspect, like budgeting. I just find that they're not the client, but that works itself out in the end. I'm not missing anything. I'm just letting them find somebody that works really well for them, because there are people that run businesses who are completely opposite from me, put everything on every line and write it all out, and that would be a better person for them. So I just let it happen organically as well. And that's kind of how I handle the clients or the planners. Sometimes they'll come to me and they'll be like, here's our ideas, or here's the design, here's the client's budget, can you do it? And I'll look at it and say, can I put this through my lens? Is that something that I feel comfortable producing? Can I do it and make them happy at the budget they're providing me? And then it's either a yes or a no, and then I'll work through a proposal through my lens. And then for a few trusted planners, I will just take their design and translate it from them without me creating the design. I let that happen through the event designer. And then, they're just, I'm acting as a production person, but they still, it's people that I've worked with. They trust my opinion. I'll weigh in and make updates and changes and stuff. But at the same time, they've handled a majority of the design, and they're just asking me to help execute it. So, but I only do that with people that I know are going to bring designs and clients to me that are in line with the brand. So yeah, so that's clients, planners. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense the way you structure things, because you are a creative, and so designing the day is like the biggest picture in mind. It's not, again, you're not just like getting the flowers. There's so much more that goes into it, and like all the vendors of the wedding day work together, I feel like.
You have to.
And when you design the day with flowers, like, you are designing the look of the day, and it's that kind of impacts how the day feels, whether it's more like elegant and romantic, or if it's more like laid back and
All
fun
the
and wild.
adjectives.
Yes, all the adjectives. And it also, like, that is also in your wedding pictures, like all the flowers you have on your wedding day, all of the floral designs and the installations and the table centerpieces, like, that's what's going to be in the wedding pictures that you look back on in 50 years.
Yep.
So everything does work
Yep.
together. It's not just like just getting flowers, just getting a picture. Like, it's all interwoven. And so using florals to help kind of like evoke a feeling on your wedding day, not only for yourselves as the couple, but also for your guests, I think is a really important piece to the day itself.
That's my lens when I think about a design, is guest experience and photography. So, anything that your guest experiences is going to be photographed in most cases. There's your signage, your seating chart, escort wall, whatever that's going to be. Your guest is going to interact with a bar. Anywhere that kind of stuff is happening, it's a great place to highlight with florals. Accent, it doesn't have to be big. It's just saying, hey, we thought about it here. Even like, and I go as far as to already kind of anticipate things like styling the cake table and photographer styling. That's something I've been doing for probably the last 7 years. From the very beginning, I've provided a box of details to the photographers. I think it's probably my fault to a degree that started happening all the time. But I've always recognized the importance of supporting the photographers in doing their job to capture the moments for their clients. And if they want those details, I want them to have the florals present. That's why we make sure we get the bouquets there before the personals, there before the photographer arrives, because we want them to have access to the flowers. So I'm thinking not just about, dropping off centerpieces. I'm thinking about where your guests are going to be, where your photographer is standing, how we're framing out the aisle. So when your photographer is standing at the back, they're getting all of the flowers at the right heights, and there's things behind you and next to you. And I'm thinking not just about making a pretty arrangement, but creating a space, an environment, highlighting things. I do tell people a lot, don't try to hide things with flowers, because the quickest way to draw people's attention to something is to put flowers on it. People are like, can I hide the bathroom trailer or put like flowers on the railing? I'm like, no, people are going to look at that. Like, you want to not,
Yeah.
don't look at that. Don't look at that. So where you want the focus to be is where you put the flowers, and where the focus is going to be is where I try to put the flowers. So it's a very organic process. And then we're working with planners. We're working with the venue. We're working with the space. We're working with people who are doing stationery, signage. I'm adding and accenting a lot of hard work that people have put into the branding and design of events. I always say I'm the icing on the cake, not to take away from our beautiful bakers, but it's, you know, flowers should be a layer on top of everything, and we want to build them and moments around them, but there's details and stuff that they kind of just enhance. So if you're doing this incredible beautiful escort wall, you know, you can go ahead and design that, and then I'll get that and be like, oh, we can put flowers here and design around it. So it's something that like kind of happens really organically through the process of designing a wedding too. Is I get the information from the other vendors, and we all talk. And thankfully, we have a really great community locally, and I think everybody feels really comfortable talking to each other in terms of vendors and interacting. And we all have the same goal. Like as long as everybody's like a awesome, professional, amazing vendor, then all of our goals is just to make the clients happy and do what's best for them, and also like respect everybody else's work. So that's definitely the approach for wedding day. And the better we work together, the more we work together, the more beautiful, the more cohesive the events turn out being. And that's the environment that I want to be in. That's the environment I want with my clients. You know, I want to like team. I love when venues are on the same page and supportive and helpful. That is something I found coming out of COVID. Venues have gotten kind of mean. And there was a lot of like love and support while we were all trying to get through this like COVID thing, and now it was like, get away from me. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting. Not all venues, but I think there's a lot less patience. Everybody's just back to just doing their job. So yeah, so it's been interesting to see it go full circle. But vendors love each other, and I love what I do, and I definitely am always thinking about the other vendors and making them look good, because that's what my clients would want, and that's what looks best for my clients.
Absolutely agree with all of that. It is, we do have a good community here, and I find that everybody typically works super well together, and we all just want the best for the couple, and we want the best for the day itself, and it always happens that way too. So it's great being a wedding vendor and working with everybody. And I also want to highlight that having the florals there early on the day, and especially like the box of extra florals to use for like flat lay pictures. Oh my gosh, world of difference. Elevates your getting ready pictures so much. It's yeah, big fan, big fan. Those are
Yeah.
always my favorite flat lay
And
pictures.
that was just, you know, it's just something I recognize is in order for photographers to take pictures of flowers, the flowers need to be there. So I just try to make sure they're there and accessible as much as possible. And some photographers like taking the detail photos like after the wedding, or so they can take the detail flowers home. I don't expect them back. I even make them an extra boutonniere so they don't have to take the grooms. And that way we have an extra on site. Now that I'm advocating giving it away, I account for it in the photo details, but it's something that we have and they have, and they can, if they want to get everybody's boots and do like the big group shot of boutonnieres, great, they can do that, but they have their own, it looks like the groom, and that way they don't have to manage getting that and then giving it back. So I try to make it as easy on the other vendors as possible as well. Because we love our
That's awesome.
photographers. Oh
Very
wait, no, I can't do it that way. I forget how the young kids, wait, how's it this way? I don't have it.
okay. I've always been doing this,
I look
but
like I'm
I've
throwing gang signs. Oh, it's this way. It's this way.
yeah,
It's this way.
we're trying to make hearts with our hands for anybody who's just
Yeah. Oh,
listening,
yeah,
and that's the way to do it.
yeah. We have
Yes.
the old way, and now we have the new Taylor way. This is the
Yes.
Taylor way.
I don't know the new
Yeah,
way.
yeah. You got it. You got it. You had it.
Way.
You had it. Yep, that's
But
it. That's it.
yes,
Straight.
we're almost there.
Yeah, straight.
Okay.
Yep, you got it. Look at
I
that.
feel like
Oh,
it.
look at that heart. Gorgeous.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Elder millennial.
Okay.
Yay.
Right? Yes. I feel like I'm in the middle, but I relate more to millennials than I do to Gen Zers. Whatever.
I'm so not cool anymore. I used to be cool. I used to be so cool. I was the like weird kid that like would play on their own and like talk to imaginary people in the trees and stuff, and you know, play with crafts and stuff. So I have my very specific
Yes.
friends who understood that, but you know, but as I've gotten older, I've recognized, you know, that I'm neurodiverse, and you know, there's a lot that went into who I was as a child, but also allows me to be the creative that I am today. So
Yes, it's a superpower.
yes, it's fun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I was the weird kid, never popular. Yeah.
Yay. um, okay, wrapping this up, I have one big last question for you that I think you're very qualified to answer. So,
Oh.
uh, what is your biggest tip for busy brides planning their wedding, both professionally as a florist, so big floral tip, and then also personally since you've been married.
Love that. Lot of pressure. So I love to highlight inclusive language, and I like to recognize that not everybody planning is a bride. So I like to say marriers. I've certainly planned amazing weddings with grooms. I've had non-binary clients. So my first advice to any marrier is to have the smallest wedding that you can possibly have. Small, and for some people that have large families and large familial expectations, that may be 200 people. I respect that, but if you can have a 20-person wedding, have a 20-person wedding, but put your budget into a great photographer, beautiful florals, a great dinner. Make it experience and enjoy it. If you can't do it, don't. It's not worth it. It's not worth spending $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 when it's not accessible. You're taking out loans. You're possibly impacting your future. If you can avoid doing that, don't feel compelled. There's no rule saying you have to have a big wedding anymore. And I love that kind of, I think there was always a micro mindset, but COVID has really kind of pushed that. My husband and I, being wedding vendors, getting married several hundred times with my clients. We had a Sunday morning wedding with 20 people. That's what was possible for us. And if it was either going to be 20 or 200 because he's from a really large family in South Jersey. So it was going to be a large South Jersey wedding if we proceeded. So that's why we did a 20-person wedding. So I definitely recommend that. Let's see. Have the smallest wedding you can. If you can't, don't. If you can, make it yours. Nobody else's opinion matters. Literally. Everybody has this idea that they have to make all of their guests happy. They have this oh, are people going to enjoy this? Are they going to like it? Are they going to think it's pretty? But you're the one creating the rules, and the people that are attending these events are people who love and care about you, especially if you're having the smallest wedding you can possibly have. You've really curated a guest list of people that you want to be there. So every person there should hopefully only care about you and you being happy. So do what makes you happy. Have the fun wedding, have the fun details, hire professionals to help make sure it doesn't get too goofy. Don't DIY as much as possible. Even if that means going on Etsy and hiring somebody to do it for you, especially seating charts. Seating charts are not the time and not the thing. I know everybody's cousin has a Cricut. I understand, but it's so much easier for you to go have that printed somewhere professional than to torture that friend or family member and yourself the entire week before the wedding, trying to get the names right and transfer 200 people's names onto this board with the thing. And I know they keep making it easier, but it's still not easier. So, try to DIY as little as possible. And all the friends and family, everybody wants to help. It takes a village. These people love you. They care about you. They want to whip out their crickets and monogram things and, make bouquets with silk flowers and all this stuff. But it is okay to say, I love you. I want you to enjoy it. I know you want to help, but we're okay, and just because that's a whole nother layer of stress, because that person's going to be asking you questions and require energy and thought from you. And again, those are the things that go into creating stress around planning a wedding or a celebration event. So, try to hire professionals. And like I said, if you can't, don't do it. Just go get married on a mountaintop. And everybody in Pennsylvania, remember that you can get a self-uniting marriage certificate. And I definitely recommend, meaning you can get married anywhere and it's legal. I mean, that's how my husband and I did it. We hired an officiant, but they weren't ordained, just to talk us through it. So that's why I always tell people getting married in Pennsylvania, especially if you're having a small micro, intimate, want to run away type wedding, self-uniting. And that way, if you want to have Uncle Bob stand up there and talk, Uncle Bob he can be a witness, but nobody has to go to the Universal Life Church and become a minister. Trust your florist. They're artists. Give them your color palette and tell them any flowers you love or hate. But other than that, just let them do their thing. You'll get the best result that way. And if you can't find a florist who will work with you hand in hand in supporting a careful oversight on your part. Yeah, if you need something with a little bit more structure, there are florists that will work with you. But if you're looking for true creativity, trust your creatives. Find professionals, pay them for their work, and you will have an amazing result, and hopefully not regret it. Hopefully not regret it.
Yes. All amazing pieces of advice for couples getting married. Truly, it is your day. It is like the point of a marriage is to commit to each other for the rest of your lives and to celebrate that love with or without loved ones, and like designing the day to be the best it can possibly be, whatever that looks like. And if it's going to be a wedding with florals, I mean, look at Becky. Hire RAM Floral. They're amazing. They'll get the job done
Or
for
not. I
you.
mean, there are some really amazing startup florists. There's some other there's so many great
So
people in this
many.
area that
Mhm.
I would say I've gotten to the point where I would be considered like high end luxury, which is just because to do the work that I love to do that's the money that it costs. But there are people doing really good work out there, working out of their houses with smaller overhead, with smaller scale events, that can work with a decent $5,000 to $7,000 budget and produce like really beautiful work as long as the expectations are reasonable. So, if you want the world, you're going to have to pay for it. But if you have reasonable expectations and an okay budget, you can find somebody that will work with you. Because that was me at one point. I was not that I'm saying they're out there, but I was giving it away for free. Hopefully, people have learned from my mistakes. But there are people who are still starting who are incredibly talented. I
Yes.
love Dean from Fruitcake Flowers is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so excited to see them just grow. So you can look and find those people who are, starting their small but mighty brands, and growing as creatives and take advantage of that in a totally positive way
Yes.
by
Positive ways
supporting
only.
them to do that work.
Yes.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
but find people, find professionals to support your day and have a good time with it. Have a good time with it.
Absolutely. Fully agree. Well, thank you, Becky, for being on the show. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I'm sure every couple listening has learned so much and really respects all florists now a bunch more. And I hope
I
to
don't
work
know
with you.
about that.
Oh, 100%. Yes. It was so great having you and I hope to work with you again soon.
Oh, you too. It's you, and you are also amazing. I respect the hustle. I love that you are doing this and you are educating and you are putting this out there, and vice versa. Your work is absolutely beautiful. And I, having never worked with you and having been in the industry and married to a photographer, have incredibly stringent eye when it comes to photography, and you are a excellent photographer. So it was a pleasure to work with you, and I hope to again in the future. And I can't wait to see how your universe grows.
Thank you so much. I'm smiling so big. Here's to all the universes growing.
Yay!
I'm sure you could tell by listening to the episode, but Rebecca is such a joy to be around. I loved hearing her passion when talking about not only floral design, but also her business and about couples getting married, just making their wedding day what's best for them and for nobody else. So, if you enjoyed listening, if you've been listening, I would love if you could click follow. That would mean the world to me and be a really good way to support the show. And then giving the show a 5-star rating and review is the best way to push it out to more couples who are planning their weddings who could use this advice. So thank you so much for your time. Now go hug your person, and I'll see you next Wednesday.